You put together with the Boston Celtics the first $300 million contract extension in NBA history for Jaylen Brown, your client. It's the most lucrative contract extension in the history of the NBA. Can you tell just a little bit, summarize it? Like, what is it about? What are the moving parts as far as term, maybe some contingencies as far as like performance goes, et cetera. And then we could dig a little bit deeper into like what it's like to create that contract.
Well, a year ago in 2023, Jaylen, after a phenomenal season, received all NBA honors. And there's a rule in the collective bargaining agreement that going into that, year left in his contract, because he was all NBA, he was eligible to sign what's known as a Supermax deal. And out of his draft class, basically, he's been on the same team the entire time and earned that. He was the only player, frankly, likely eligible or close to signing that deal. There were other guys that ultimately didn't sign. So, he earned it. He deserved it. We had a negotiation, and then ultimately ended up signing that 5-year Supermax deal. It has since been eclipsed by his teammate, Jason Tatum, this summer, as expected, after they won a championship. But no, for him, he deserves everything that's coming his way. He was obviously Eastern Conference Finals MVP and NBA Finals MVP this year in their first championship in 16 years. But it was very exciting to be a small part of it, to help, fight for him on his behalf to get, the contract that he so earned.
Just going back, you mentioned the word Supermax. What exactly is the definition of a Supermax contract?
So for certain NBA veterans within the league, if they hit certain criteria, whether it's Defensive Player of the Year or All NBA or All-Star there's a number of criteria that allows them to kind of earn more percent of the cap. So a player like Jaylen Brown, who's been in the league less than 10 years, he can only earn 30%. But if you hit certain Supermax criteria, then he can jump to 35% of the cap. So that's what happened to Tatum this past year, and that's what happened to Jaylen Brown last year.
So you think that these athletes make too much money? When they're generating $300 million in income over a 5-year period for, playing ball, are the numbers becoming obscene, Jason, in your opinion? Do you think it's just too much money?
I would ask, do you think the owners are making too much money? The owners of the Celtics put the team on, going to sell it right now. They bought in the early 2000s for $300 million. They'll probably fetch it for $6 billion. That's a 200% return, I believe. So I think the players and those salaries obviously are well publicized, but the amount of money and the equity and the significant raise of valuations of teams far dwarf what players are making at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear with you, personally, I'm a proponent, I'm an advocate of capitalism. I think both Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics deserve those valuations. I think they do a lot more than entertainment. They're putting people into the workforce. They're creating value in their community. They're developing financial value in the community that floats all the way up as it relates to better healthcare, better quality of food, and beyond. I'm a big proponent of it, actually. So, Jason, you put together this Supermax contract on behalf of Jaylen Brown. It's worth $300 million over a 5-year period. Going into that conversation, you're probably thinking a little bit about strategy and plans, and also thinking about who's on the other side, who's representing the Celtics, who's representing the ownership. So who is it typically as an agent that's on the other side of the bargaining table with you?
It all depends on every deal and every organization. You have a combination, like you mentioned, of ownership. Some teams have presidents, some teams have GMs and assistant GMs and other, call it analytics groups in there. So every team is different at the end of the day. Given we've worked with the Celtics a good number of times with other deals, we have a working relationship with their president, who won Executive of the Year, Brad Stevens, Mike Zarin, one of their vice presidents, as well as their ownership group. So on all the deals, it's usually a combination of that group.
Did both sides kind of get the sense that the number would be locked, that it would be around 300 million, or was that one of the big points of negotiation?
Every negotiation is different at the end of the day, and their agent's job is obviously to get the player the most amount of money and most amount of, compensation protection, things like that. The team obviously always values players, but at certain limits because there's certain rules that are part of the collective bargaining agreement. So, at the end of the day, I'm happy that Jaylen obviously earned because he's the one who got all NBA. He's the one who has been an all-star and performed at that level, got the number I think he deserved. And I would think that both sides right now, especially a year later and right before his contract actually officially kicks in, will be pretty happy of where everything's at.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, the guy is literally the MVP of the finals for the championship team. It's like such an accomplishment. How long, Jason, did the contract negotiation take?
I think we were officially able to start it at the beginning of July, and I believe at the end of July. I'm not sure when it was announced, but those things take time. You want to make sure every deal, no matter how small or big, is done the right way, is forcibly pushed for your clients. So very few things kind of happen, snapping your fingers that quickly, no matter the numbers. But I think it was within the month at the end of the day.
And then philosophically, is your plan as you're negotiating on behalf of Jaylen during this time period that you go back and check in with him, explain what progress or what pitfalls have been reached at that point in time? How involved is Jaylen during that negotiation?
Well, for any negotiation, you want to make sure the player's aware of what's going on. Taking a step back, no matter how little or how much money, this is their job. This is their livelihood. This is their career at the end of the day. So good or bad, you want to make sure they're informed as best you can. There's a difference between informing them on the minute or on the daily versus, once every couple of days and things like that. So for every player, you obviously want to know your players well and know how to communicate with them to make sure that they're fully informed because this is their contract and their career.
So Jay, you get to this point where now the negotiation has reached the point where you're happy. You as the agent, as the attorney, you realize that it's in a spot that's reasonable, maybe even more beneficial to your client. What are you thinking in your head at that point in time? Are you thinking, okay, the Celtics have come to the table. They've done a great job. And I'm going to tell my client now, advise him, let's take the deal and move forward? Or what's going on in your head?
I think at the end of the day, when you feel it's at a good place for a player to take the deal, you go over all the details. You go over the pros and cons. No matter how big the deal is, there's pros and cons to every deal, just like on the team side. You give your opinion, your professional opinion based on your work on that at the end of the day. And then you advise them, what you think they should do. But in the end, you're just the agent. The player makes the decision. You can say no to a $3 million deal or yes to a $3 million deal or same for a 300 or anywhere in between. So you just want to educate as best you can every part of the deal and all what it means. And then hopefully the player obviously listens to you and trusts you that you've done a good job and fought for their behalf the best way you can.